Michael loved basketball more than anything. He dreamed of making the varsity team, of hearing the roar of the crowd as he sank a game-winning shot. He spent hours in his driveway, dribbling until his fingers ached, practicing layups until his legs burned. The problem was, Michael wasn't very tall. He was a good head shorter than most of the other kids trying out for the team. Some of them teased him, calling him Short Stack or Mighty Mouse, but Michael ignored them. He knew he had heart, and he was willing to work harder than anyone else. Every morning before school, Michael would be out on the court, running drills. He practiced his shooting, focusing on his form and release. He worked on his passing, making sure each pass was crisp and accurate. And he practiced his defense, knowing he had to be quicker and smarter than his opponents to make up for his lack of height. After school, he'd head straight to the park, where he'd play pickup games with older, bigger kids. They didn't take it easy on him. They challenged him, pushed him, and sometimes even knocked him down. But Michael never gave up. He kept getting back up, kept playing, kept learning. His dad, a former college basketball player himself, though not a very tall one either, helped him with his training. He taught Michael about footwork, about creating space, about using his agility to his advantage. He showed him how to anticipate his opponent's moves and how to use his lower center of gravity to his benefit. You might not be the tallest guy on the court, Michael, his dad would say, but you can be the smartest. You can be the quickest. You can be the most determined. Michael took those words to heart. He knew he had to be exceptional to overcome his physical disadvantage. He watched videos of famous, shorter basketball players, studying their techniques, learning how they compensated for their lack of height. He saw how they used their speed, their agility, and their intelligence to excel. One evening, practicing layups under the dim glow of the streetlight, Michael felt a surge of frustration. He jumped, reached for the hoop, and barely grazed the net. He landed with a thump, his heart sinking. Was it even possible? Could he really make the team, despite being so short? He kicked the basketball away in anger. His dad, who had been watching from the porch, walked over. "Hey," he said, putting a hand on Michael's shoulder. "Don't get discouraged. It's going to be tough, but you can do it. You've got the heart, you've got the drive. Just keep working hard, and never give up on your dream." Michael looked up at his dad, his eyes filled with determination. He picked up the basketball, dribbled once, and took another shot. This time, he jumped a little higher, reached a little further, and the ball swished through the net. A small victory, but a victory nonetheless. He knew he had a long way to go, but he was ready for the challenge. He was Michael, and he was going to make that team. The day of tryouts arrived, and Michael felt a mix of excitement and nervousness churning in his stomach. He laced up his sneakers extra tight, took a deep breath, and walked into the gym. The air was thick with anticipation, filled with the squeak of shoes and the bounce of basketballs. There were dozens of kids there, all vying for a spot on the team. Michael recognized some of them, the ones who had teased him, the ones who seemed to glide effortlessly across the court, the ones who already looked like varsity players. He tried to ignore them and focus on himself. The tryouts began with drills. Shooting drills, passing drills, dribbling drills. Michael gave it his all, pushing himself to the limit. He ran faster, jumped higher, and shot with more accuracy than he ever had before. He wanted to show the coach that he deserved a spot on the team, regardless of his height. During the scrimmage, Michael played with a fire in his belly. He dove for loose balls, set screens for his teammates, and fearlessly drove to the basket, weaving through taller defenders. He even managed to steal the ball from one of the biggest guys and sink a jump shot. But as the tryouts went on, Michael started to feel a sense of unease. He noticed the coach, Mr. Thompson, watching him with a thoughtful expression. Mr. Thompson was a tall, imposing figure, a former college player himself. Michael knew that Mr. Thompson valued height and size in his players. At the end of the tryouts, Mr. Thompson gathered all the players together. "All right, everyone," he said, his voice booming across the gym. "Thank you for your hard work and effort. The list of players who made the team will be posted on the bulletin board tomorrow morning." Michael spent a restless night, tossing and turning in bed. He replayed the tryouts in his mind, wondering if he had done enough. He knew he had given it his all, but he also knew that height was a major factor. The next morning, Michael walked to school with a heavy heart. He dreaded seeing the list, but he also couldn't bear the suspense. He made his way to the bulletin board, his eyes scanning the names. He searched and searched, but his name wasn't there. He looked again, just to be sure, but it was no use. Michael hadn't made the team. A wave of disappointment washed over him, crushing his spirit. He felt his eyes welling up with tears. He turned away from the bulletin board, trying to hide his emotions. As he walked away, Mr. Thompson approached him. "Michael," he said, his voice gentle. "I wanted to talk to you." Michael stopped and turned to face the coach. "I saw you gave it your best out there," Mr. Thompson continued. "You've got a lot of heart and determination. But, well, the truth is, you're just too short. This year's team is focusing on size and rebounding. I just don't think you're ready for the varsity level yet." Michael felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to argue, to plead, to tell the coach that he could prove himself. But he knew it was no use. Mr. Thompson had made his decision. "I'm sorry, Michael," Mr. Thompson said, his eyes filled with regret. "Maybe next year." Michael nodded silently and walked away, his head hung low. He felt like his dream had been shattered. He had worked so hard, dedicated so much time and effort, and it all came down to his height. But as he walked home, a new feeling began to stir within him. It was a feeling of defiance, of determination. He wouldn't let this setback define him. He would prove Mr. Thompson wrong. He would get taller, stronger, and better. He would show everyone that he had what it takes to be a basketball player, no matter his height. He resolved to train harder than ever before, to dedicate himself to improving his game. He would return, and he would be undeniable. The rejection fueled Michael. He transformed his disappointment into relentless action. His room became a laboratory of basketball science. Books on anatomy, physics, and sports psychology littered his desk, alongside diagrams of muscles and skeletons. He spent hours watching videos of NBA players with incredible vertical leaps, dissecting their movements frame by frame. He learned about plyometrics, about the importance of explosive power, and about the biomechanics of jumping. His training became a solitary obsession. Before sunrise, he was already at the park, running sprints and doing plyometric exercises. He started with simple box jumps, struggling to clear even a small wooden crate. He stumbled, fell, and scraped his knees, but he kept getting back up, driven by the image of dunking over the team captain. He devoured information about weightlifting. His dad helped him set up a small weightlifting station in the garage. Michael started with light weights, focusing on form and technique. He learned about squats, deadlifts, and power cleans, exercises that would build the strength and power he needed to jump higher. The weightlifting was brutal. His muscles screamed in protest. He felt like giving up, but he remembered Mr. Thompson's words, "You're just too short." That fueled him to push harder, to lift heavier weights, to endure the pain. He kept a detailed training log, meticulously tracking his progress. He measured his vertical jump every week, charting his slow but steady improvement. At first, the gains were minimal, barely noticeable. But gradually, he started to see results. An inch here, half an inch there. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep him motivated. He experimented with different jumping techniques. He tried 1-foot jumps, 2-foot jumps, running starts, and standing starts. He analyzed his form, tweaking his movements, trying to find the perfect combination of power and efficiency. There were days when he felt discouraged, when he wondered if all his hard work was for nothing. He'd look in the mirror and see the same short kid staring back at him. But then he'd remember his dream, the feeling of the basketball in his hands, the roar of the crowd. And he'd get back to work. He visualized success. He imagined himself soaring through the air, dunking the ball with authority, silencing the doubters. He practiced the dunk over and over, even though he couldn't quite reach the rim yet. He knew that if he kept working hard, kept pushing himself, he would eventually get there. His diet changed. He started eating healthier foods, focusing on protein and complex carbohydrates. He knew that nutrition was just as important as training. He needed to fuel his body with the right nutrients to support his intense workouts. The 2 years passed in a blur of sweat, pain, and determination. Michael transformed himself, both physically and mentally. He was no longer the same timid kid who had been cut from the team. He was stronger, faster, and more confident. He was ready to prove himself. He was ready to fly. He was still quiet, but inside, a storm was brewing. A storm of pent-up energy, waiting to be unleashed. 2 years had passed. The boy who had walked away from that bulletin board, head hung low, was gone. In his place stood a young man, his frame broader, his muscles more defined. He was still quiet, still reserved, but there was a new steel in his gaze, a quiet confidence that radiated from him. He wasn't just taller, he had grown several inches, finally reaching an average height for a high school basketball player. But it wasn't just the height, it was the way he carried himself. He moved with a purpose, with a controlled power that hinted at the strength he had cultivated. His clothes, once loose and baggy to hide his smaller frame, now fit snugly, showcasing the results of his dedication. His shoulders were wider, his chest more developed, and his legs looked like coiled springs, ready to unleash explosive power. He still spent hours in the gym, but now he dominated the court. His jump shot was smoother, his passes were crisper, and his dribbling was more precise. He could now palm the basketball with ease, a feat he had only dreamed of 2 years ago. He practiced his vertical jump relentlessly, launching himself higher and higher, pushing his limits. He could now consistently touch the basketball rim, and sometimes, just sometimes, he could even grab it. The image of dunking was no longer a distant fantasy, it was a tangible goal within his reach. His face, once etched with doubt and insecurity, now bore the marks of discipline and perseverance. There were faint lines around his eyes, a testament to the countless hours he had spent studying, training, and pushing himself to the limit. He rarely spoke, but when he did, his voice was deeper, more resonant. He had learned to choose his words carefully, to speak with intention and purpose. He no longer felt the need to prove himself with empty boasts, his actions spoke louder than words. He occasionally saw Mr. Thompson around school. The coach would nod politely, but there was no recognition in his eyes. He didn't see the transformed Michael, the player who had dedicated himself to surpassing his limitations. Michael didn't seek him out. He didn't need validation. He knew what he was capable of. He knew the potential he held within. His focus was solely on his goal, to return to that gym, to step onto that court, and to show everyone what he had become. He had heard rumors of a scrimmage, an exhibition game showcasing the current varsity team. It was an opportunity, a chance to reveal his transformation, to demonstrate the fruits of his labor. He knew he had to be there. He felt a nervous energy coursing through his veins, a mixture of anticipation and excitement. He knew that this was his moment, his chance to rewrite his story. He was ready. He was Michael, and he was about to shock everyone. The quiet, determined boy was gone, replaced by a confident, powerful young man ready to seize his destiny. The storm within him was about to break. The news reached Michael through the hushed whispers of the school hallways. A scrimmage. An exhibition game between the current varsity team and a group of alumni, a sort of casual showcase before the real season began. It wasn't a formal tryout, not exactly, but it was an opportunity. He overheard snippets of conversation, excited chatter about the new team captain, a towering figure named Jake, who was supposedly a shoo-in for a college scholarship. Jake, The name echoed in Michael's mind. The one standing between him and his dream. The announcement was officially posted on the school website, a simple notice with the date, time, and location, the main gym. Michael stared at the words, his heart pounding in his chest. This was it. This was his moment. A wave of nervousness washed over him. He hadn't played in a real game in 2 years. What if he choked? What if he wasn't as good as he thought he was? What if he embarrassed himself? He pushed the doubts aside. He had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to let fear hold him back. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and visualized himself on the court, dominating the game, dunking over Jake. He knew it wouldn't be easy. The varsity team was good, and Jake was a formidable opponent. But Michael had a secret weapon, his unwavering determination. He had spent 2 years honing his skills, transforming his body, and preparing for this moment. He was ready. That evening, he went to the park and practiced his jump shot, focusing on his form and release. He ran sprints, pushing himself to the limit, feeling the burn in his muscles. He visualized the scrimmage, anticipating every move, every pass, every shot. He talked to his dad, seeking his advice and encouragement. "Just go out there and play your game, Michael," his dad said. "Don't worry about what anyone else thinks. Just show them what you can do." He spent the next few days in a state of heightened awareness. He paid close attention to his diet, making sure he was fueling his body with the right nutrients. He got plenty of rest, knowing that he needed to be at his best for the scrimmage. The day before the game, he went to the gym and shot baskets for hours, familiarizing himself with the court. He imagined the crowd, the noise, the pressure. He wanted to be prepared for anything. He laid out his basketball shoes and uniform the night before, ensuring that everything was perfect. He couldn't sleep, his mind racing with thoughts and images. He kept replaying the dunk in his mind, visualizing the moment of triumph. Despite the nerves, he felt a sense of excitement building within him. He knew that this was his chance to rewrite his story, to prove everyone wrong, and to finally achieve his dream. He was Michael, and he was ready to take flight. The storm was about to break, and he was ready to unleash its fury. He was both terrified and exhilarated, a potent combination that fueled his resolve. This was his moment. He would not waste it. The gym doors loomed large as Michael approached, each step echoing the thump in his chest. He paused, took a breath, and pushed them open. The familiar scent of polished wood and sweat washed over him, instantly transporting him back to that day 2 years ago. The day his dream had been seemingly crushed. The atmosphere inside was electric. The bleachers were already filling up with students, parents, and alumni, their voices a low hum of anticipation. The squeak of sneakers on the polished floor, the rhythmic thump of basketballs, and the occasional shout of encouragement created a symphony of basketball sounds. He scanned the crowd, recognizing faces he hadn't seen in years. Former classmates, teachers, and even a few of the kids who had teased him about his height. He avoided their gazes, focusing on his goal. And then he saw him. Mr. Thompson, the coach, standing near the sidelines, talking to Jake, the team captain. Mr. Thompson looked older, his hair a bit grayer, but his imposing presence was still the same. Michael felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of anger, resentment, and determination. He forced himself to stay calm, to focus on the task at hand. He walked towards the alumni bench, trying to blend in with the other players. He recognized a few of them, guys who had graduated a few years before him, guys who had been good players but never quite made it to the next level. The air crackled with tension. Michael could feel the weight of expectations, the pressure to perform. He watched as Jake warmed up, effortlessly sinking jump shots and throwing down thunderous dunks. The crowd roared with approval. Michael felt a flicker of doubt. Jake was bigger, stronger, and more experienced. Could he really compete with him? Could he really pull this off? He looked down at his hands, clenching them into fists. He remembered the countless hours he had spent training, the sacrifices he had made, the pain he had endured. He remembered his dream. He looked up, his eyes filled with determination. He wouldn't let fear paralyze him. He wouldn't let doubt consume him. He was Michael, and he was ready to fight. The scrimmage was about to begin. The players were gathering at center court, the referee was blowing his whistle, and the crowd was roaring with excitement. Michael took another deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. He knew that this was more than just a game. This was his chance to prove himself, to rewrite his story, and to finally achieve his dream. He was ready to take flight. The storm was about to break, and he was ready to unleash its fury. The tension was palpable, hanging heavy in the air like a thick fog. It was time. The referee blew the whistle, and the scrimmage began. Michael remained on the alumni bench, watching as the varsity team took to the court. He wanted to observe, to analyze, to get a feel for the game before he stepped in. Jake, the team captain, was everything Michael had heard. He was tall, easily clearing 6'5", with broad shoulders and a confident swagger. He moved with an effortless grace, dominating the court with his size and skill. The varsity team quickly took control of the game, thanks in large part to Jake's dominance. He scored easily, driving to the basket with authority, sinking jump shots from beyond the arc, and grabbing every rebound in sight. The crowd cheered his every move, chanting his name. Michael watched intently, studying Jake's every move. He noticed his strengths, his height, his strength, his shooting ability. But he also noticed his weaknesses, his slow footwork, his predictable moves, his tendency to rely on his size. Jake was cocky, too. He taunted the alumni players, trash-talking and showboating after every basket. He seemed to enjoy the attention, reveling in his superiority. The alumni team struggled to keep up. They were older, slower, and less skilled. They made turnovers, missed shots, and failed to defend Jake's relentless attacks. The score quickly ballooned in favor of the varsity team. Mr. Thompson watched from the sidelines, a satisfied smirk on his face. He seemed pleased with his team's performance, especially Jake's. He occasionally glanced at the alumni bench, but his eyes never lingered on Michael. Michael felt a surge of frustration. He wanted to be out there, competing, proving himself. He wanted to show Jake that he wasn't invincible, that he could be beaten. He knew he couldn't stay on the sidelines forever. He had to get into the game, to take a chance, to seize his opportunity. He stood up from the bench, signaling to the alumni coach that he was ready to play. The coach nodded, calling a timeout. Michael walked onto the court, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the eyes of the crowd on him, watching, judging, waiting to see what he would do. He looked at Jake, who smirked at him. "Well, well, well," Jake said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Look who finally decided to show up. You think you can actually compete with me, shorty?" Michael didn't respond. He simply stared at Jake, his eyes filled with determination. He was ready. He was Michael, and he was about to show everyone what he could do. The storm was about to break, and Jake was about to be caught in the middle of it. It was time to play. Michael stepped onto the court, the roar of the crowd washing over him. He hadn't played a real game in so long, and the initial rush of adrenaline made him feel slightly off-kilter. His first few touches were a little rusty. He fumbled a pass, missed a jump shot, and hesitated on a drive to the basket. Jake chuckled, shaking his head. "Looks like your training didn't do you much good, shorty," he sneered. But even with the rust, Michael's improved athleticism was undeniable. He was quicker, faster, and more agile than anyone expected. He moved with a newfound explosiveness, his jumps higher, his movements sharper. He started to find his rhythm. He anticipated a pass, intercepting the ball and dribbling down the court with surprising speed. He pulled up for a jump shot, his form perfect, and the ball swished through the net. The crowd gasped. He followed that up with a steal, stripping the ball from Jake as he drove to the basket. He passed the ball to a teammate, who scored an easy layup. The alumni team started to gain momentum. Michael's confidence grew with each play. He started to take control of the game, directing the offense, setting screens, and making smart passes. He drove to the basket with a newfound fearlessness, drawing fouls and sinking free throws. He even managed to block one of Jake's shots, leaping high into the air and swatting the ball away with authority. The crowd erupted, cheering Michael's name. Jake started to get frustrated. He couldn't believe that this short kid was giving him so much trouble. He tried to intimidate Michael, trash-talking and bumping him during plays. But Michael didn't back down. He stood his ground, meeting Jake's aggression with his own determination. The alumni team started to close the gap. Michael's energy and athleticism were infectious, inspiring his teammates to play harder. They started to defend better, rebound stronger, and shoot with more confidence. The score was close as the final minutes of the game approached. The tension in the gym was palpable. Every possession was crucial. Michael knew that he had to make a play, something special, to turn the tide of the game. He looked at Jake, who was guarding him closely. He could see the frustration in Jake's eyes, the doubt creeping into his mind. Michael smiled. He knew what he had to do. He was ready to unleash the storm. He just needed the opportunity. The opportunity was about to present itself, and he knew it. He could feel it in his bones. The moment was near. He just needed to be patient. The clock ticked down, seconds melting away like ice in the summer sun. The score was tied. The varsity team had possession. Everyone knew where the ball was going, to Jake. Jake, his face a mask of determination, dribbled towards the basket, sizing up Michael. He lowered his shoulder, faking a drive to the left, then quickly crossed over to his right. Michael anticipated the move, his years of studying footwork paying off. He mirrored Jake's movement, staying right in front of him. Jake, surprised by Michael's quickness, powered forward, exploding towards the basket. It was now or never. Michael took a deep breath, gathered all his strength, and exploded off the ground. Time seemed to slow down. He felt himself rising, higher and higher than he had ever jumped before. He saw Jake's surprised face, his eyes widening in disbelief. He saw the basket, the orange rim beckoning him. For a split second, they were suspended in air, a tableau of two athletes locked in a silent battle. Then, Michael reached the apex of his jump, his hand outstretched, the basketball clutched firmly in his grip. With a ferocious roar, he slammed the ball through the hoop. The sound was deafening. A thunderous crack that echoed through the gym, silencing the crowd for a heartbeat. The impact reverberated through Michael's body, a jolt of pure adrenaline. He landed hard, his legs absorbing the shock. He looked up at Jake, who was still in the air, his mouth agape, his expression a mixture of shock and humiliation. The basketball net swayed violently. The backboard vibrated. The entire gym seemed to shake with the force of the dunk. The silence broke. The crowd erupted. A cacophony of cheers, screams, and whistles filled the air. People jumped to their feet, their arms waving wildly. The alumni bench cleared, his teammates mobbing him, slapping him on the back, congratulating him on his incredible feat. Mr. Thompson stood on the sidelines, his face frozen in disbelief. He couldn't believe what he had just witnessed. The short, skinny kid he had cut from the team had just dunked over his star player. Jake landed awkwardly, stumbling and falling to the ground. He looked up at Michael, his eyes filled with anger and resentment. He had been completely humiliated. Michael stood tall, his chest heaving, his face flushed with adrenaline. He had done it. He had achieved the impossible. He had silenced the doubters. He had proven everyone wrong. He had finally flown. The storm had broken, and the gym was still reeling from its fury. The moment was his. He had earned it. Every drop of sweat, every hour of training, every moment of doubt had led to this. The dunk. The defining moment. The game changer. The dream realized. The gym was a swirling vortex of sound and motion. The crowd was a living, breathing organism, its collective energy focused entirely on Michael. Cheers reverberated off the walls, creating a deafening roar that threatened to shatter the windows. People were jumping, screaming, and high-fiving, their faces flushed with excitement. The alumni bench had emptied, Michael's teammates hoisting him onto their shoulders, parading him around the court like a conquering hero. He tried to smile, to acknowledge the adulation, but he was still slightly dazed, the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Mr. Thompson stood frozen on the sidelines, his mouth agape, his eyes wide with disbelief. He looked like he had seen a ghost. The smug smirk that had been plastered on his face for most of the game was gone, replaced by an expression of utter shock. He was speechless, unable to comprehend the transformation he had witnessed. Even Jake, still sprawled on the floor, looked up at Michael with a grudging respect. The anger and resentment were still there, but there was also a flicker of admiration in his eyes. He knew that he had been outplayed, outsmarted, and outjumped. But amidst the chaos and the celebration, Michael felt a profound sense of calm. A quiet satisfaction washed over him, a feeling of inner peace that he had never experienced before. He had achieved his goal. He had proven himself. He had silenced the doubters. He wasn't seeking the cheers or the adulation. He didn't need the validation of others. He had done it for himself. He had done it to prove that anything is possible with hard work, dedication, and unwavering belief. As his teammates lowered him to the ground, Michael scanned the crowd, his eyes searching for one particular face. He found him, sitting in the stands, his eyes sparkling with pride. His dad. Michael smiled. That was all the validation he needed. He took a deep breath, soaking in the moment. The gym was still buzzing with excitement, the crowd still chanting his name, but Michael was already looking ahead. He knew that this was just the beginning. He had a long way to go, but he was ready for the challenge. He had shown them what he could do. He had shown them his heart, his determination, his skill. And now, it was time to see what the future held. He was Michael, and he was ready to take on the world. The storm had cleared, leaving behind a sense of hope and possibility. The next chapter was about to begin. He just didn't know how soon. As the crowd began to thin, and the gym lights seemed to dim slightly, a man approached Michael. He was dressed in a sharp suit, a stark contrast to the basketball jerseys and sweatpants that filled the room. He had a friendly face and a warm smile. "Michael?" he asked, extending his hand. "I'm David Miller, a scout for Crestwood College." Michael shook his hand, surprised. He had never spoken to a college scout before. "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Miller," he said, his voice still a little hoarse from the game. "Please, call me David," the scout replied. "I saw your performance tonight, Michael, and I was incredibly impressed. Your athleticism, your determination, your court awareness, it was all remarkable." Michael blushed, unsure how to respond. "Crestwood College is a smaller school," David continued, "but we have a strong basketball program. We're known for developing underdogs, for giving players a chance who might have been overlooked by the bigger schools. We value heart, hustle, and a never-give-up attitude." He paused, looking Michael directly in the eye. "Michael, I'd like to offer you a full athletic scholarship to Crestwood College." Michael was stunned. A scholarship? It was more than he had ever dreamed of. He had hoped to make the varsity team, to maybe play a little college ball someday, but a full scholarship? It was beyond his wildest expectations. I don't know what to say," Michael stammered. "Think about it," David said, handing him a business card. "Talk to your parents, do your research. Crestwood might not be a household name, but we offer a great education and a chance to play competitive basketball. We believe in you, Michael." We see something special in you. He smiled again, a genuine, encouraging smile. It was a pleasure watching you play tonight. You have a bright future ahead of you. David turned and walked away, leaving Michael standing alone in the emptying gym, clutching the business card in his hand. He looked down at the card, his heart pounding in his chest. Crestwood College. A chance. A future. He couldn't believe it. After all the hard work, all the sacrifices, all the doubts, his dream was finally within reach. He had a scholarship offer. He was going to college. He was going to play basketball. He looked around the gym, at the empty bleachers, the squeaky floor, the lingering scent of sweat and victory. He had come full circle. He had started as a short, skinny kid who had been cut from the team, and now, he was a scholarship athlete. He smiled. He had proven them wrong. He had proven himself. And now, he was ready for the next chapter. He was Michael, and he was going to college. The storm had passed, and a new horizon had appeared. He couldn't wait to see what it held. He knew his dad would be ecstatic. He couldn't wait to share the news. After talking it over with his parents, poring over the Crestwood College brochure, and even having a video call with the basketball coach there, Michael made his decision. He called David Miller and accepted the scholarship. A wave of relief washed over him, followed by a surge of gratitude and excitement. The uncertainty that had clouded his future for so long had finally dissipated. He knew where he was going, what he was going to do. He was going to college, and he was going to play basketball. He felt a sense of closure, of accomplishment. He had achieved his dream, despite all the obstacles, all the doubts, all the naysayers. He had proven that anything is possible with hard work, dedication, and unwavering belief. He walked back to the gym, one last time, to say goodbye. The lights were off, the doors were locked, and the court was empty. But he could still hear the echoes of the cheers, the squeaks of the sneakers, the thud of the basketball. He could still feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins. He turned to leave, and that's when he saw him. Mr. Thompson, the coach, standing in the shadows, watching him. Michael hesitated, unsure what to do. He could have ignored him, walked away, and left the past behind. But he felt compelled to say something, to acknowledge the man who had inadvertently set him on this path. He walked towards Mr. Thompson, his heart pounding in his chest. He didn't feel anger, or resentment, or bitterness. He just felt a quiet sense of understanding. "Mr. Thompson," he said, his voice calm and steady. The coach looked at him, his eyes filled with a mixture of surprise and regret. "Michael," he said, his voice barely a whisper. I don't know what to say. I was wrong about you. You proved me wrong." Michael nodded. "It's okay, Mr. Thompson," he said. "I understand. You were just doing your job." He paused, a small, knowing smile spreading across his face. "I just wanted to let you know that I accepted the scholarship to Crestwood College." Mr. Thompson's eyes widened. "Crestwood? That's a great school. They have a good basketball program." "Yeah," Michael said. "I'm excited." He looked at the coach, his smile widening. It wasn't a triumphant smile, or a gloating smile. It was a smile of understanding, of forgiveness, of quiet confidence. It was a smile that said, "Thank you for doubting me. Because your doubting me is what made me who I am today." He turned and walked away, leaving Mr. Thompson standing alone in the shadows. He didn't need to say anything else. He had said it all with his smile. He had left the past behind, and he was ready to embrace the future. He was Michael, and he was going to college. The storm had cleared, and a new chapter was beginning. He was finally free. Free to chase his dreams, free to be himself, free to fly. And he had a small, knowing smile on his face. The sun peeked over the horizon, casting a warm golden glow across the basketball court. It was early, the air still crisp and cool, but Michael was already there, putting in the work. He wasn't training at the old high school gym anymore. He was at Crestwood College, on their state-of-the-art basketball court, surrounded by new teammates, new coaches, and new challenges. The scholarship had opened doors he never thought possible. He was surrounded by talented players, all striving to improve, all pushing each other to be their best. He knew he had a lot to learn, a lot to prove. He dribbled the ball, his movements fluid and precise. He had refined his skills even further, honing his jump shot, perfecting his passing, and increasing his vertical leap. He was stronger, faster, and more skilled than ever before. He was still the quiet, determined kid from high school, but he was also something more. He was a college athlete, a scholarship recipient, a role model for others who had been told they weren't good enough. He practiced his dunk, launching himself into the air, soaring towards the basket. He slammed the ball through the hoop with authority, the sound echoing through the empty gym. He landed hard, his legs absorbing the shock. He smiled. He had come a long way. He knew that college basketball would be a new level of competition, a new set of challenges. He would be facing bigger, stronger, and more experienced players. He would have to work harder than ever before. But he was ready. He had faced adversity before, and he had overcome it. He had learned to never give up, to never doubt himself, and to always believe in his dreams. He wiped the sweat from his brow, took a deep breath, and continued to train. He practiced his free throws, his layups, his defensive drills. He pushed himself to the limit, knowing that every drop of sweat would make him a better player. His coach, a grizzled veteran named Coach Thompson, no relation to his high school coach, watched him from the sidelines, a smile on his face. He had seen something special in Michael, something that many others had missed. He knew that Michael had the potential to be a great player. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Michael continued to train, his movements relentless, his determination unwavering. He was ready to take on the next challenge. He was ready to prove himself, again. He was Michael, and he was a college basketball player. The story ends not with a championship, or a professional contract, or any other grand achievement. It ends with a simple scene, Michael, on the court, training, striving, believing. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear, Michael is ready. He is ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead, to pursue his dreams with passion and determination, and to never give up on himself. The story ends with a sense of hope, a sense of possibility, and the promise of future success. The journey continues.